So today we're talking about OSCQR Standard 1-4. And we're going to run through some of the basics of that, and then we're going to sort of expand that conversation. And what is OSCQR 1-4, our fourth OSCQR webinar? And so really it breaks down to a printable syllabus is available to learners in PDF or HTML. And we're going to talk about why PDF and HTML in a little bit, but it really does break down to accessibility. This is about allowing a copy of your syllabus to be available to students who are using devices or are using a screen reader so they can access it. Sometimes it's a lot easier for them to be able to use the document offline to read through it as well. It's also part of regulations with the Department of Education, as well as state, that students receive their syllabus as part of a contract between two parties. It's not a legally binding contract in most states, but most of them, the syllabi is a guideline for students for expectations on both sides, and it helps everybody be successful in the partnership. And I'm going to just click on the video. It's very short tonight, so we'll give you a nice video for this. Let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Not all students are visual learners. Many of us are very comfortable viewing written material on either a computer screen or a mobile tablet screen or even our phone screen, and we absorb everything we read just by viewing it. But there are still students who need to hold a physical piece of paper in their hand in order to absorb what they're reading. So therefore, it's very important to have a printed syllabus available for those students who need to print it out and hold that printed syllabus in their hand in order to read it and absorb what's on it. We don't all learn the same way, and we need to make sure our online classes address all levels of learning, regardless of what those may be. The only thing I would advise is ensuring that it is in a PDF or HTML format. I see a lot of, again, in reviewing courses, I see a lot of instructors that include it in a Microsoft Word document or other such format. It's important to remember that you never know what students are viewing their course on, and it might not be to their advantage that they're able to either, number one, open that type of document or print that type of document. So I would just, like I said, ensure that you include it in a PDF or HTML.
There we go. So that's really the basic outline for this standard. I will talk a little bit more about PDF and HTML, and I actually do recommend Microsoft Word documents, and we're going to talk about why. So when we look at the actual language from Standard 4, what we're interested in is about this access. We're providing access to students who may otherwise have difficulty reading the formats or accessing or need special equipment to be able to read our formats. They should be able to access, download, and print for their convenience. For part 2, it really goes back over this idea of readable and printable and not being editable. And the PDF and HTML file formats are really the most recommended over a docs format. For me, I think in the last 2 years, Microsoft has made this huge jump in accessibility within their word processing, also Excel, and as well as, of course, the slides for PowerPoint. They are really now ahead of Adobe for accessibility. So not using a doc is not as important as it was previously. PDF and HTML really are sort of cloud files, right? They're platform agnostic. So they should be able to read them. But what we find out is that more and more students do not have access to Adobe Acrobat, or that faculty need to edit the PDF and they don't have access to Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. So using a docx form may be actually the best way to handle it, because we know all of our students have MS 365, which they can download the Office product. So all of our students are able to read that docx format. So wherein if you were in another university where, MS Office is not provided, PDF and HTML may be the way to go. But for us, the docx is actually acceptable as well. So what is this breakdown? What is this actual practice breakdown into? It's really about having an accessible syllabus. So it's not enough just to have a printable syllabus. It needs to be accessible and readable. And we go back to that point where it says readable and accessible, right? So it's accessible in the first part and it's readable in that second part. So we're talking about taking your syllabus and taking the time to check it in both Ally, which is our Blackboard tool, as well as MS Accessibility Checker. And the checker is available in Microsoft Word on the Review tab. So the Review toolbar, it's right next to tracking changes. So most of us are often using tracking changes and comments on documents as we work together. So you can see that MS Accessibility Checker is right to the left. The printable syllabus also is very important for students who need to use software such as JAWS or Dragon. Those actually work better with PDFs offline instead of working in Blackboard. Blackboard is completely accessible, which is a great thing. But sometimes it's actually some of the softwares that students with disabilities are using. A printable syllabus may be better. Also, a printable syllabus is better for someone with low vision. With low vision, they can really blow up their Microsoft Doc and really zoom in very closely, or the PDF to be able to read the syllabus and sort of get an idea of what's going on. The last practice is a deconstructed syllabus, which is taking parts of your syllabus and putting them in Blackboard so that they are accessible right from the top menu. So a lot of times we have conversations that none of our students read our syllabus, right? We put it out there, all they have to do is download it and read it, and they don't. And it is a phenomenon across online learning. It's not something that's just here. One of the practices you can do is called a deconstructed syllabus, by putting the most important parts of the syllabus that they need to pay attention to actually in your get started or your course information area, so that they don't actually have to open the file. And when you do it, the deconstructed syllabus, it's actually in HTML. So we're hitting that HTML is, our preferred file format. And that, so anyone with the screen reader will be able to access this. The deconstructed syllabus also allows access to students who are using a Beeline reader. So anyone who may have dyslexia can follow along with their Beeline reader right in Blackboard with the Ally tool. The Ally tool also allows them to download your syllabus in multiple formats, whatever format they need. So it can be translated into audio or to a Braille file. But most often, putting in that deconstructed syllabus will allow students this sort of quick glance at your syllabus without actually having digging down. So when we talk about accessible and printable syllabus, we're really talking about using our Ally Blackboard tool. So in Blackboard, Ally will give you a report on all of your documentation within your course. And you can do that by the left-hand menu. There is in your course tool list, it's called Accessibility Report. So if you haven't seen that before, you can check that out. It will go through each document and give you scores on where you are and then give you a score for your course. So we're always working toward full accessibility here. And a lot of faculty are doing a great job with that. We've talked about the accessibility checker in Word. Now, there is an accessibility checker in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. Some faculty were able to get licenses, but right now I believe we're out of licenses for Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. So it is not available to everybody. So count your lucky stars if you do have a Pro DC copy. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to get Adobe Acrobat Pro DC for everyone, for all faculty members. So you'll be able to go in, use the accessibility checker, and as well as edit your PDFs if they're not digitally signed or if they're not password protected. Now, Blackboard Ally has two ways, of course, that is provided. Most of you are familiar with this. One is our colored gauge, which is on that left-hand side here, and one is on the right. This is called the alternative format. It's part of our universal design for learning. So Blackboard follows universal design for learning as much as possible. And what it does is it puts the responsibility right in the students' hands and gives them access to all of their different needs to transform these files that we're working with without them having to involve DSS or asking you for certain copies. So it helps them really retain their privacy around their disability. So that's sort of the wrap up of the standard. What we're talking about now is some additional things that you could put in your syllabus, which is quickly becoming standard practice across our nation in universities and colleges. All right, so let's talk about inclusive statements and policies. So there's quite a bit here. I'll try not to overrun today. We'll keep the time nice and tight, and we'll walk through these each one. So what I've done is pulled examples of each of these statements to give you an idea of what the inclusive practice is asking for. Some of these we've developed together. So Tim Stewart, if you're here, you can pipe up at any time. I have a couple examples from you, and of course Heidi as well. You can pipe into to add any comments as well. So let's first talk about the textbook publisher. A lot of students have difficulty with getting their textbooks and their publishers. It is a barrier. We know it's a barrier to success. Some students just never are able to get the textbook working, and it causes them to withdraw from the course or drop from the course. So Tim actually worked on a little blurb for textbooks that really turns his classroom into an inclusive environment where each of the students and himself can work together to make sure everybody has a chance and understands that technology is something that we have to work through, we have to get better at. Nobody is a genius, and that it's often your colleagues and collaborators that are going to give you a hand. In the EPTO course, we also have developed a textbook template that's right up to date with the new IA stuff. What we recommend is for your online courses that you're inserting an image of the textbook cover, because that's when they see that graphic, it gives them a lot of release from anxiety. And then they have the information they need in case there's a question of what edition it is. One of the things that we're really lacking and we really need to do more is to put in direct links to the platforms, right? Most of us do that. Access code informations and step-by-step instructions. Most of our publishers have log-on videos or log-in videos or access code videos. I highly recommend adding them right to your course. Include a link to the logon directly. And then their technical support. So we find that some students are calling the help desk for support, trying to get their textbook or get access. And they really need to have that textbook publishers Most of the tech support for publisher is a wide range. It's more than banking hours. Usually they're all closed at night and the weekends, but they do offer sometimes Pacific Coast hours. So they're open to maybe 7 to 9 p.m. at night as in taking calls. So putting in that tech support number is really, really important. Now we've come up with a group of videos that have been developed by the bookstore, developed by a few of the people working with Barnes and Nobles to help students understand how they're buying their textbooks, how they order their book, and then how they get access to the book. The bookstore also has a video that you can add on where to get help for students. And we had these 2 new things just come out this past semester for inclusive access for students. So they are videos from the student's point of view about how to log in and how to find their textbook in the course. So, sort of combining these 2 ideas of setting them up and so they know and understand that there's a supportive community and technology is hard, and then providing them a rich background in where they can get help will really help them through the process. And of course, I'm sure all of you are making little videos step by step where to find the book for your course orientation, which we talked about in standard 1 and 2, as well as step-by-step instructions. Is there any questions about textbooks?
Hey, Mish,
Yes.
question. What if there is no image for the textbook? So for example, Cengage, we use Cengage Unlimited. So there is no, as far as students don't see, as far as an actual title, edition, author, because it's the unlimited where they can grab multiple textbooks.
I might explain that. I would also probably put a Cengage picture, Cengage Unlimited little icon in there. So at least they know when they see it, there's probably a Cengage Unlimited logo somewhere. I'm sure it's.
But so here's the thing: if I grab the Cengage Unlimited, which is what the issue has been, so I don't put it on here, the Cengage Unlimited logo and what Barnes and Noble uses for 2 totally different things from what the students see.
So you definitely want to use what the students see.
Yeah, which I don't have access to because I don't get access to Barnes and Noble's site to see what they get, because when they order it through the bookstore, you don't see an image at all, and it's just automatically emailed to the students. So it's a different image than what we see through if you're ordering it through Cengage.
Then I wouldn't worry about the image too much or the edition. I might put in a couple of sentences explaining what their experience is going to be about and what this Cengage Unlimited textbook is all about, right? Yeah, I might even say something as you probably won't see a picture. You'll probably be able to access the textbook here. You should also talk to Tom Feather, who is in the bookstore. He may be able to get you something, an image or something, or have a better suggestion of what the students see. You may even ask him to sort of take a screenshot of the book and what it looks like for a student view, and then just send it to you. So you could use that in your textbook template.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, it's Leslie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I have a question because I use an OER resource for the DL course that I teach consistently. So, I mean, we've done some research in the department. I know that there is reader software available for a visually impaired student that can match up with the text I use. But my question is, traditionally what I do in like my welcome page is I just put a hyperlink to the book, and then I have the link, which is also like a web-based PDF, on the menu of the class Blackboard page. So in a sense, I don't have to do all this other stuff for that textbook.
I would recommend putting some inclusive language around coaching what the textbook is about. and share with them, we've chosen an OER textbook. The reason being is we want no cost to you. We found the textbook is an excellent resource, and sort of coach that language. And then here, I might put something about, if you have any problems accessing the OER textbook, please email me ASAP, right? Immediately, right? And just reiterate your email address.
Okay. Thanks.
Right. The idea here is to provide a pathway to getting online to their textbook, and providing a pathway to support when things go wrong. And that may be your OER book, or it's to you yourself, or it may be to a publisher or the Barnes and Noble. So depending upon how you've set up, you want to provide those pathways, right? And then we want to coach it in this language so that they know this is not easy, right? I often, when I was able to do Blackboard training for students during the open houses in August, which went very well. And we talked to students about how difficult sometimes the textbook is, and don't get frustrated. And these are the places you're going to go, right? And you're going to contact the faculty, and you're going to contact Barnes and Noble. So, we want to provide those pathways as much as possible. We are very blessed also to have a donated net etiquette policy from Kristen Swithers. So we have a lot of faculty who have been giving these policies for general use. And this one is a really good one. You can use the whole thing, you can use part of it, but it does talk about being forgiving. It's got a lot of nice inclusive language around that. It talks about the differences between netiquette online and talking to people online and talking to people in person. It also has the links directly to the handbook where it speaks about civility. So around CCRI students from information. So it's really great resource for students to get them started. There's a couple of netiquette guidelines from Virginia Shea at the top. There's a couple of links there. You can check those out. They have rich resources that talk more about coaching, netiquette language to prepare students for online. So civility, which is what the netiquette falls under, that's our CCI policy here that we give to everybody. But the civility is really important in a lot of AHSS courses, as well as I know biology, often working with environments and talking about evolution. There can be a lot of disagreements in some of those conversations. Law studies, even in your English course, you may have disagreements with the reading of some material. So think about adding some inclusive language of your own in your own words. This one's from Brown University, which has extensive inclusive statements and practices about preparing them for their conduct and how they talk to each other. As more divided the nation becomes, we are, seeing these opposite, really dug in positions for some topics. So setting this civility is really a great way to set up these students for success and how to talk to each other, and then what you're going to do if they do break that civility code. So we're talking about explicit content, and this is inclusive as well from Vanderbilt. Explicit content, they were called triggers, but now we're not using triggers as part of the vocabulary anymore. We're using explicit content, which prepares students who have had or received trauma in their lives to prepare them for subject matter within the course, or if you are working in areas of health or dental or rehab, where you're talking about walking in and experience people who have been abused, experiencing people with gender based issues or gender based topics. So you may need to add some language around that makes sure that they know that they are safe and that you respect their positions and that the rest of the class will respect their positions, right? You're creating a little bit of a safe space. No classroom can be ever made safe, but at least you're setting the ground rules that you will not tolerate discrimination in your classroom. And then what's going to happen as well, you can also, as you can see here, have tied it with Project Safe 24 Hours, which is one of their domestic abuse safety programs. I know we have a domestic abuse program here as well. You often see it on the bathroom doors with information to call. So think about how that language would work for your course. So, some courses won't need this at all, but a lot of courses in AHSS may have some dealings with explicit language, especially around psychology and sociology. We often have people who have experienced trauma in those classes. We have a second one from the University of South Carolina, which does use emotional triggers. It does use that words, but we're sort of switching now to that explicit content language that just is very quickly, recognizes that there is a lot of intellectual and mental health issues that are going on in courses, and that please make me aware, right, in terms of the course content, right? So you're just opening up yourself to allow those conversations to happen with students, and often these, students may need help, and you can lead them to student services. Or so let's talk about religious and cultural observances. So we know that most states, people who have religious and cultural observances are protected by law. Here's one from Brown University, where the instructor is just letting the students know that we understand that you may practice a religion or a cultural practice, and that they should be prepared to tell you that, so that you can make arrangements for that student the days that they will be absent. This is a really great way to make sure that people who are first generation, or people who are coming international students, or even local people who have cultural holidays, that we're open and understanding to what's going on in their lives as well. Student mental health. So this issue has really come to the forefront recently. Over the last 2 years, it's always been an issue, but it's really been right square in the center the last 2 years. Here is the CCRI mental health policy. This was created in part about the My SSP that's coming out from Advising and Counseling Center. This is the new language that they are using around that product for the services. They put this together for me and for a couple of other administrators, so that we could spread this policy around, that you could put in your syllabus, and actually can add it to your deconstructed syllabus right in your course content, right in Blackboard. So they're really excited about this My SSP support services. And we're really hoping to get a lot of students a lot of help through that service. Also, we have Shanna Wells. Shanna's doing a fantastic job as our social worker. And she recently redefined what she wanted in the syllabus, and she had passed it on to me over the summer. So she'd like to now see this in all the syllabi and in your online courses in the deconstructed syllabus, where you're giving access to people for community and social resource office, and that is for insecurities. So, any kind of food security, housing security, mental health, financial, family emergencies, disaster. Shanna has all those resources from the community available to students. So we just need to connect our pieces, right? And we're hoping that through part of the syllabus, we'll be able to reach students that are not going to Shanna directly or not hearing about her services. So one of the things that we don't often do in the syllabus is about Title IX and pronouns. So here's an example from Kansas University that talks about gender identities and expressions, and again is building that community and that safety in that class community. Again, nothing can ever be safe, but at least you are making sure that students are safe. As far as you can make it, you're not going to let discrimination happen. You are creating an environment where people can talk to each other and is free from discrimination and harassment. And also for Title IX policy, that you are an employee. So if somebody shares with you, a student shares with you that they have been sexually assaulted, under Title IX, you are required to report that, right? You're required to report that up the chain, so that are as part of Title IX legislation, so that the proper people can get involved and make sure that that did not happen on the campus, and make sure the student is has services, and that we can help that student continue to succeed. So this is a great short little blurb from Kansas that talks a little bit about both. I believe you can find the Title IX policy information up on the HR website under Title IX. Then on top of that, I've also asked Sybil to work on a policy that we could put right into our syllabi about Title IX. That hasn't come out yet, but here's an example of what that may look like. So we also have our ability to coach veteran services too. We have a population of veterans here as well as active duty, and we want to make them feel included as well. So here's the CCRI policy I asked the veteran services to come up with, and this is the language they were able to give me to coach around veteran services. So if you have any students in your class who are veterans or active duty, they'll be able to know that there are services for them. They've recently redone the veteran website, so it's quite extensive now with lots of programs and lots of opportunities. So it really is a great office for those students to connect. Also, here's an example. So again, Tim came up with this great policy for active duty. So he's talking a little bit about what if you have a student in your course who already is called up for active duty. And so he coached some inclusive language around what his policy was, to make sure that the student understands that we're going to assist them if they are called up, and that there are plans in place through the Veterans Office that will help them continue their academic life. I found a couple of other policies I thought were really nice. This one was from Pennsylvania State University, and I forget where the other one is. I think it's Michigan. It might be Michigan, where it talks about veterans and active duty members, and that they are welcome and encouraged to speak to the instructor. Sometimes soldiers may feel out of place. Sometimes they're older than the people around them, and they have had a totally different, in some cases, life experience. So we want to make sure that they are just as welcome in the classroom as everyone else, right? And I couldn't find any official veteran active duty language for CCRI. I looked in the student handbook and I couldn't find anything. But I was able just to have that one blurb from CCRI services that sort of covers everything so far for them. Again, so here's a couple examples that you can sort of coach in your syllabus. So academic integrity. So we all are very sad, and Michael Cunningham has moved on. He did some exceptional writing in the student handbook about plagiarism and about cheating. I really point to every student, and I would highly recommend just copying and pasting it right from the student handbook right into your syllabi. It's really wraps around the idea of what is plagiarism, how it's different from everybody, and some of the things that we clearly know are cheating, what we consider cheating. One of the other things we know is from online and pedagogy and inclusive practice, there is evidence that when you tell students in your syllabus or when you coach them in a video and talk about cheating and what cheating is to you, and you know, your specific definition for your course, and then what the consequences are, it actually helps decrease the amount of cheating that goes on in your course. So that is an effective strategy to take the time in your course to sort of explain to them what you considered exactly. It also helps to clear misconceptions or miscommunications for students who are not English language speakers or who are international students or recent immigrants who may come from another culture who has a totally different definition for what cheating is. This is also a blurb I use right in the EPTO for your templates, which also comes a little bit about from our student handbook. This is sort of a nice, succinct way to talk about academic integrity in your course. It doesn't have a lot of inclusiveness in it, so I love how Michael sort of coached that language. But this is our sort of policy that we've been using for a while now that came from student services, I believe. And I believe that article about cheating is located in the EPTO course. I think it's module 2. There is an article about sort of doing that practice, defining cheating, talking about why it's dishonest, and then talking about the consequences. So you can take a look at that as well in the community of practice, effective practice course. So now let's move on to some of the templates we've come up with that are CCRI policies directly that you may have verbiage for, but it may not be exact. So we've been working on getting the verbiage for these sort of exact. So the first one is VOE, and I worked with Kathy about verification for enrollment. So one of the things we know is a misconception for VOE. VOE should not be attached to an assignment. VOE can be, it is the lowest barrier possible for federal financial aid checkoff. So if a student is in your course and they email you about the course, and they haven't done anything else, that still counts as VOE. They could submit an assignment, homework, a quiz, exam. They could post their introduction, or they could come to a live session or Zoom session. Any one of those activities will clear their VOE. So we never want to see a student who was not past VOE, even though they did one of these activities, right? So you don't want to tie it to a specific assignment, right? It doesn't matter if the student did that assignment, as long as they did one of these things, VOE is passed. And then there's incomplete grade. So the incomplete grade, of course, this has been, most people have this same language. This has been around for quite some time. And the trick here is that the student needs to be passing at least 75% of the course before they're even eligible to try for an incomplete grade. So make sure that you also have this language in your syllabus as well. So we've created a technical policy as for your course. Let me get my bar out of the way here. This provides basically the template here has all of the links for IT for setting up pretty much everything they're going to need. There's also another part. If you look in the template, it also has Microsoft all-in OneDrive now and some of the links to OneDrive for students. So this is a great way to just copy and paste into your syllabus. It has all the links ready to go. You can see it has the online student orientation, which faculty were able to build with Joanne Galliano. It was a great little orientation for students. It will print them out a certificate when they complete, which they can pass in as a part of an assignment if you'd like. So you know they've gone through that. It also leads to technical specifications for the browsers. And that way you don't actually have to put any like, you need like Chrome 10.1.2, right? You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is point them through to the set up your tech, and then we'll take care of that technical end for you on that web page. If you are using Respondus Lockdown browser in your class, there are additional policies and technical requirements that you should have in your syllabus. So I've added the link there so you can take a look at that. There's a recent change in the law. A recent case, a student brought a university to court to sue them over privacy use of the camera in their home, and the student won. So we now need to make sure that students understand that they will be recorded and filmed, and by participating in the quiz, they're basically giving their permission to do so, right? So that policy is in Respondus Lockdown page, so make sure you take care of that if you're using that product. There's also other things to think about, such as calculators, phones, lab equipment. All that also can be added right under the technical policy. And we're going to talk about that in the future, about what needs to be required specifically. That's tomorrow, actually. So Student Success also came out with a new policy in this summer. This is the brand new policy from them. They've connected all their links to all their videos, which introduce students to a lot of the services through the Student Success Center. So here is that. And this template is available in that community of effective practice. I can make sure that it was added. I think I just updated it, but I think this might be the brand new one. So I might have to put that in there. And then also the Writing Center. So the Writing Center gave me a new write-up for them as well, for their policies and their services as well. They just got this new email too as well, that you can see the Writing Center. Oops, sorry. So they can now, everybody's taking in those emails, so they're going to be answered a lot faster. We don't have to worry if anybody's out of the office. So they're handling those different, which is great. And then the CCRI Disability Service link, which comes right off of the Disability Service webpage, which we can use, and that hasn't changed much for a long time. So most people have this sort of language, coached language for that. There's a lot of people that then coach this language with other language. It says, please reach out to me. I care about your success, and sort of use that language around this disability service accommodation. And that's it. Is there any other questions about any of these policies? So these policies are all policies that we've sort of built up over the last couple of years, putting all these together. There are only very few that are actually policies, which are the incompletes and the VOE, which I believe are defined somewhere in enrollment for in grading, I think on the registrar pages somewhere. So that those languages live there. Everything else pretty much is either this inclusive idea of adding these for inclusiveness, and also sort of coaching more of our services to students directly so that they can access these things. And of course, if you're not doing a review with me, an Oscar course review for your online course, if you're interested in, you can go to this link. If you go to all the Oscar seminar webinars and you do a review with me, you're going to get a lot of night points and a digital badge, and you can become a course reviewer, which means that within your department, if people need to review courses, you could be called up to sort of have the ability to sort of review courses for that. This is separate from the new Oscar scorecard. You probably have emails around that. The Oscar scorecard is just for the self-study. It is separate from the review. In the self-study, you're self-reporting and you're just filling in those forms for the scorecard. But this course review is about working with me to talk about the design of your course and what we can do to improve it. For the resources for this particular standard, you're going to find a lot of this stuff in the Community of Effective Practices in the Blackboard templates. Some of them are brand new, so I'll make sure that they get in there. OSCQR Standard 4, of course, is going to have a lot of information in it about it. There also is a page called Online Teaching Readiness under the LDC, My Learning Design Center. In the Online Teaching Readiness, it has a lot of the templates that you can download. So if you're looking for some of these templates, they're on those pages, as well as 2 learning kits that I designed, which a lot of you have already used, which is Create Accessible Digital Documents, which will walk you through step by step how to create an accessible digital document. And then 2, Design Inclusive Syllabi, which actually has more examples of some of these inclusive language policies that we've been talking about. So you saw some of them said example C or example A. So all those examples are in that inclusive syllabi. And of course, I give a good plug for Heidi and Lynn for Caring Campus that is quickly coming up in the near future.